Hello everybody, Catmatt here. That's Michelle, and she is back for part 3 of The Life of a Catfisherman, me. Again, nothing special, just thought I'd lay some things out there, let a lot of you new people to the internet and the world of catfishing get to know who I am and maybe some of the things I've got to do. Next, I wanted to talk about, I got through kind of the youth years and stuff. I wanted to talk about the beginning of the Catfish Academy and the catfish camps. My start in television, when I started doing my first television shows. The Catfish Academy, I actually was a spawn off. I can't take credit, like it was not the first website devoted to catfishermen, because the BOC, the Brotherhood of Catfishing, and the Catfish Nation existed, and they were strong. They had lots of members, lots of things going on, and so I started the Catfish Academy. Got a logo, got it all patented, started a website, and had a big message board, and we gained lots of members. It was great. We had some great sponsors on there over the years. I can't even remember a lot of the sponsors we had, but Polecat, he was a custom rod guy, and G&S Cheesebait, J&N Dipworms, and all kinds of great sponsors back in the day that helped us with that. And then we spawned off of that. We spawned off the catfish camps, which was which a lot of people don't even know existed. And there's some videos of them still posted and some pictures and stuff. But I'm very proud of the catfish camps. They were held here on the Rock River, except for one. We had to move one to a lake because the river was flooded so horrible. But we had so many great people involved with them that donated food and help, and we had hog roasts and fish fries. And but the proudest thing about them was, we would get together, we would go fishing, I did seminars, but the best thing about them was the sponsors, donations, and the things we were able to do for kids. We gave away in 6 catfish camps over 500 rods and reels, and that's before you ever get to the tackle boxes and the lessons learned and the tackle and the equipment and the gear. And we gave away so much stuff. And I said a lot of it went to kids. We have raffles for big people stuff too. And what I'm proud of now is I can look around the internet and I can see so many relationships between people that did start because of the Catfish Academy and the catfish camps in particular. So really proud of that, that I got to be part of that, got to do that. Again, it's just like Facebook, we had our share of drama at times, just like all the websites did. And that kind of led up to Facebook. And Facebook kind of was the beginning of the end for websites, because there's no sense in paying for websites and message boards when you could just go to Facebook and do all that stuff there. But the Catfish Academy and the catfish camps were great. And what was the other thing I said I wanted? I just said it, Gamma. I wanted to talk about the catfish camps, Catfish Academy, and my start with TV shows. It was about that time, during the run at Catfish Academy, that we started. There was an online magazine started, and at first I wasn't involved in ownership of that, but I got to do some writing for it and take some pictures. It was Pro Cats E-Magazine. I got to do some work with them, and then later on became one of the owners of Pro Cats. Got to do more stuff with them. And about in that same time frame is when I was asked to do my first television show. I did that with Catfish Bill Wazalewski on the, at the time, almost brand new Braidwood power plant lake up around Chicago. Had a great time, caught a bunch of channel cats. I've been very fortunate when I've got to do television shows. I've done 9 now. Excuse me. I've done 9 television shows for Catfish America, Midwest Outdoors, Wall Outdoors, so Illinois Outdoor Television, lots of those types of things. But I've done television. I also got to do, I was fortunate enough to have a sponsor. I had a 65-week run of a short radio program also on WLLR 107 Country, 101.7 Country WLLR. I did that for 65 weeks. That was pretty awesome to be able to do. And I've been an outdoor writer now for, I've written for a lot of people, you know, from 19, I don't know, probably about 15 years I've been doing that. I still write for some small publications, you know, which is pretty cool. And I've been in all the magazines. I don't talk about them much on my Facebook pages or anything like that, but I've done Field and Stream, Outdoor Life, North American Fisherman, obviously Catfish Now, and some of those publications, Midwest Outdoors, In Fisherman once. So I've got to do, again, it all goes back to the part of, if you'd asked me 20, 25 years ago, or told me the things that I got to do as a catfisherman 25 years ago, and you told me I would have got to do all this stuff as a catfisherman, I'd have told you were crazy. You know, you need to get your head checked, because, you know, there's just not those opportunities in catfishing. But they are, and, you know, you gotta make them. It's a lot easier for guys now. Guys like me can get a little bit bitter at times, and I admit it. I watch some of the guys that come into the sport that just want to look cool. They just want to make it, you know, they just want people to look at them and say, I got a flashy jersey and stuff, and have put in none of the work. Couldn't do a seminar if their life depended on it. You know, and there's a lot of those guys around, and, you know, I'm never going to be the kind of guy that throws out names and does all that on public, you know, on public like that, because it's just counterproductive and stupid. And, you know, but, you know, it becomes a bitter pill to swallow at times when you see guys getting things and, you know, they don't really deserve it. But for whatever reason, somebody thinks they deserve it, and that's all that matters. So, you know, I have found the best thing to do, at least in public, is to just worry about your game and what you got going on and what you're trying to do, and take care of your own sponsors and move forward from there. You got a question, Gam? I can see you're just dying.
No, I'm just following. I'm just listening. What drives you as an angler to continue pushing yourself to the next level?
That's a great question, because I started my guide business also shortly after the Catfish Academy, Pro Cats, and all that stuff. And the guiding drives me because, you know, it's a big responsibility. You're taking money from somebody with the promise that you are going to make them a better fisherman that day. It's not always about the fish you catch necessarily that day, because everybody in your boat's different. But I think everybody that pays you expects during the course of the day to become better as a fisherman. They want to learn something that they can take from that day home to their body of water and apply it, and it'll work, and they can become better at what they do. And yes, fishing's great. Big fish are great. They love catching fish, and that's all great, but there's so many aspects of it that drive you, and you can't get lazy as a guide and just, you know, expect things to keep happening. You've got to stay on top of things, and that definitely drives you.
So when did you start guiding?
I started guided 13 years ago. It would have been I think it was 2003 or 6. 2000, it was either 05 or 06 when I started guiding. I can't remember if it was the summer of 5 or the summer of 6, but I've been guiding since then. And, you know, I guided all the way through the years of the fish kill on the rock, all that. Which kind of brings us into the next thing, which is tournaments, unless you got another question.
I do.
Oh.
So that was here on the beautiful Rock River.
That's right.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a guide trip and bait for whatever reason is impossible to find for that day, what do you do?
You better have bait. You have always got to be a trip ahead on bait. Advice to anybody that wants to be a guide: if you've fished enough, you know bait's never a guarantee. You think the bluegill are stacked here and you can always catch them, or the shad are here one day, you throw the net, you get 100. And if you've learned anything about bait that you know is the most valuable lesson, is there's no guarantees with bait. I've seen bluegill get almost impossible to catch. I've seen shad disappear thousands one day, none the next day. So my advice is to always stay a trip or two ahead when it comes to bait, you know, when it's at all possible. But also at this time we moved into the tournament scene, which is when I went and got all the sponsorship and brought the Cabela's tournament to the Rock River for the first time in 2009. I did that. I'm proud I did that. It ended the kill 'em and grill 'em tournament scene on the Rock River, which most tournaments back then were catch as many as you can, and we killed them and we fried them afterwards, or we took them home. Our guys did. I didn't fish many tournaments before that time, just a few. But with Cabela's coming here and 90 some boats the first year, and all the people were seeing the fish released, and it changed the whole culture here. And I'm very proud to have had a big part in that, changing that culture. And now all the tournaments here are catch and release. Cabela's is still coming here. Since then, we've ran 3 Monsters of the Rock series, the first 3-point series to ever be held on the Rock. We ran those, me and Michelle. So a lot of things I got to do that I'm very proud of. The Catfish Camps, the Monsters of the Rock, bringing Cabela's here. I mean, all great things that I'm proud I got to do, and still can't believe I got to do as a catfisherman.
When you went from guiding to guiding in tournaments, what was the biggest lesson you learned?
Biggest lesson I learned, and I think it was one I kind of had in the back of my mind anyway, is being a great guide does not always translate to being a great tournament fisherman.
I think you should tell them the difference between fishing in a tournament and fishing on a guiding trip.
That's what I was getting to, Gamma.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
The difference is, you know, where you're fishing for a limit, trying to catch as many fish as you can, you know, get a limit in the boat, cull, try to find, you know, as a flathead guide, I was accustomed to taking people out, moving super, super slow, and targeting that one big fish during the day. And yes, sometimes we caught multiple, but it was a whole different mindset. If I sat on a place that I knew had a good flathead on it, there was times it might take an hour and 15 minutes to get that fish to bite, no big deal. But, you know, in a tournament scene, especially if it's a 6-7 hour tournament, if you go to a couple spots like that and they don't pan out, all of a sudden you're behind the 8 ball, you're freaking out. And I refused to go fish for channel cats. I wanted to fish for flathead. So especially the first few years of tournaments, I fell on a lot of hard times, and I still to this day am not the most successful tournament fisherman. We cash a lot of checks now, but still not what I would have expected out of myself. But again, that's a tough transition. It's a completely different mindset.
Yes.
You have to react completely different to things, and so wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. And you know, I ate plenty of humble pie. So and fish will do that to you, and fish still humble you
Yes,
nowadays. So now we're moving into the tournament scene, and we're getting more up to date, and the internet has came about, and we're going to talk more about a lot of the things in part 4, sponsorships and tournaments and traveling and guiding and all kinds of different stuff that has come about now that we have gotten through a lot of the early days, and we'll move on to part 4. So hopefully you're following us along with this. We appreciate it, and we will see you with the next video.